you and I tonight so far on the session. So definitely looking forward. Oh, great, and Drew, they just joined too, so we'll have a couple other folks on here. But today we're going to focus on initiating those phone calls and campus visits. So we will go ahead and get started here. Let me go to this next page. So just to let you know a little bit about me, I played my college soccer at Ithaca in upstate New York, where I was a part of our national championship team, and I was an All-American there. And I coached college soccer for 17 years. So I coached in the Northeast as well as in the South and here in the Midwest as well in Illinois. So a lot of great experience coaching college soccer. And guys, I've gone through this process both as a student athlete and as a coach. So I'm looking forward to talking with you more about the phone call process here. Go ahead and move on. So we're going to talk about a few things tonight. Let's talk about the NCAA contact rules. I'm going to give you some phone call tips and then the general flow of soccer recruiting. Take a look at these rules here. So Division I. So college coaches can call you once per week on or after September 1st. Year. So 2017s, you can contact college coaches and they can return your messages. College coaches at the Division I level can also reach out to you as well. So Division II coaches, those college coaches can call you once per week on or after June 15th after your sophomore year. Okay, so Samantha, for you are in your sophomore year right now. So after your sophomore year, when June 15th hits, coaches can actually call you and email you. Division IIIs, there aren't any restrictions on telephone calls. The coach can make them to you. They can call you at any time. And same with the NAIA program. So, something that I do often suggest to our student athletes is to actually really start your communication with the Division III coaches and the NAIA coaches. So Samantha, for you, this would be a good opportunity for you to practice your communication with those Division III and NAIA coaches because they can get back to you. You can call them, you can leave a message, and they can call you back. They can email you, they can text you. So I think it's always a good idea to practice your communication with those coaches. And, you may not be looking at that level, but you can always develop relationships with coaches and can practice your coach communication. So, again, that's going to be a key. So when you get on that phone with a coach, you feel confident and ready to talk to that coach. So those are just a few tips for our underclassmen to really work with those particular divisions so you can practice. You can also set up coaching sessions with your head recruiting coach. That's something that we enjoy doing is doing mock phone calls. So that's also a good way to practice. So that's going to be, again, one of the big things, guys, is to really practice, okay? I was talking with one of my student athletes yesterday. She was getting ready to call a coach, and she was like, I don't know how to leave a message. I don't know how to do this. I'm like, you need to practice, just practice saying your name, hi, this is Emily Johnson, I'm from Massachusetts. I'm calling, in regards to talk with you further about, positions for me as a 2016 grad. So those are things that you all practice, okay? Leaving messages, coaches, leaving your contact information, all good things to do. Practice is a good thing. Initiating phone calls for Division I and Division II coaches. So for seniors, okay, so for 2016 grads, coaches can call you, they can email you. So this is where you want to set up a time to talk with a coach. And so, at this point in time, it's a little bit in the recruiting process. So, lots of Division I schools, most Division I schools are going to be done with their recruiting class for 2016. There are still going to be some Division II schools out there that are still recruiting for 2016. seniors, that's your biggest question to ask coaches. You know, Coach, are you still recruiting for the 2016 class? Coach, are you recruiting for my position? You know, and Coach, have you had an opportunity to see me play? So for the seniors out there, those are some types of questions that you can ask those coaches. But if you're a senior and you haven't talked to a college coach yet, you've got to do it. You've got to get on the phone and call a coach, okay? If you haven't had a lot of coach communication, get on the phone. You can send an email. Hey, Coach, can we set up a time to talk? What works best with your schedule? If you don't get a response, then you're going to pick up the phone and call the coach. Hey, Coach, I'm going to call you at 7 p.m., you know, on Wednesday, October 14th. I look forward to talking with you then. So you guys go ahead, make sure that you're getting on the phone. Okay, so juniors. Okay, we know that Division I coaches, they can contact you. Division II coaches can contact you. So you juniors need to get on the phone with coaches. And so it's always good to, you know, send an email. Coach, I'd like to set up a time to talk with you. What works best with your schedule? So that's going to be that initial email. You know, and this is a great time right now, guys. It is soccer season right now. So if there is a school that you're interested in and you want to talk with that coach, check to see how they're doing. You know, hey, Coach, I saw you had a great win yesterday over such and such team. You know, good luck with your games this weekend. You know, can we set up a time to talk? You know, I'd like to talk with you about opportunities for me as a 2017 grad. And so that's going to be, again, you know, email them, see if you can set up a time, and use references to the soccer season right now. It's exciting. You know, this is coaches, colleges are getting in the conference play right now, so a lot of exciting things going on. And then if that coach doesn't respond to you, follow up. Coach, I'm going to call you at such and such time, at such and such day. Look forward to working with you then. And then you call that coach. If they don't answer, you want to leave a message with your contact information, okay, so that coach can call you back. Now, sophomores and freshmen, Samantha, this definitely does pertain to you. You want to email the coach and let them know when you're going to call, okay? So, Coach, I'm going to call you 6 p.m. on Thursday, Eastern Standard Time. Hope to talk with you then, okay? If you leave a message, that coach cannot call you back. So, again, you may have to call a coach, you know, 3, 5, 7 times, okay? And then you can get a hold of the coach. Now, again, guys, Division I schools, Division II schools, they do want to hear from you, okay, especially, you know, sophomores and freshmen. I know it may seem kind of intimidating. Man, I'm going to call this college coach I'm really interested in playing for, you know, but that's where that practice, you know, you guys need to really practice having phone calls, leaving messages so you feel confident when on that phone with a coach, okay? So the coaches do want to hear from you. Okay, so where do you find phone numbers for coaches? Okay, you can always find the office number of a soccer staff on the school's athletic website under staff directory. Okay, so that is where you find it. Okay, I will just show you the staff directory. Okay, let me pull up a school here. Someone tell me a school to pull up. You guys tell me a school. Samantha, Grant, or Drew, just type in the chat. Okay, let's see what we got here. All right. Now, which one, Drew? In Illinois? Oh, yeah, okay. All right, good deal. All right, so let's do this. Augustana. Let's see if I can spell it right. Okay. Augustana College. I used to coach in that conference, Drew, so I've been to Augustana's campus several times. Okay, so let me bring this over, and I'm just going to share my screen with you guys so you can kind of see how I'm getting to this. So I'm going to go ahead and let's see, whoopsies, share my desktop. Okay, cool. So again, that's Augustana. So here it is, the Liberal Arts College in Rock Island, Illinois. This is a very nice campus. They've got a great soccer facility. It's just they have a complex just for soccer and lacrosse, which is really cool. So we're going to go ahead here and click the Augustana, the college athletics. Okay. tonight, so I'm going to watch that game in just a little bit. I'm going to stream it live. Okay, so cool. So now what we want to look for is the athletics department, okay? And now here we go, staff directory. That's where we want to so we hit staff directory. Okay, cool. And then here are all the sports. We've got baseball, we've got men's basketball, women's basketball, track, football. Okay, so men's soccer. Okay, so you would call coach here, and here's the number right here. So that's where you would pick up that phone and call, and then coach, his number is right here on the women's side. So that's what you do. You just go to the staff directory, and there you will see the numbers. Okay, so that is how you coaches. Okay, cool. All right, so let's go on here, and again, like Augustana, coaches can call you at any time. Typically that first form of communication, like we talked about, is going to be an email. So, you're going to send that introduction email first to the college coach, let them know you have an interest, discuss your accolades, let that coach know why you are specifically interested in their school. And then you're going to provide them with your video and additional contact information. You may send a couple emails back and forth. Again, this is a great time to contact coaches during the season. Wish them good luck on games, great win against such team. And then ask to set up a phone conversation when it's convenient for the coach. Okay, again, coaches are really, really busy right now. It's during season, getting into conference play. So you want to make sure that you set up that time that's convenient with the coach. All right, so some tips here for the phone call. Okay, so one of the first things that you guys want to do is research on that college, okay? So you want to know what conference they play in. So we know, like, Augustana plays in the CCIW. You want to know the coaches. Okay, you want to know what the mascot is. You want to know what their current record is. Okay, you want to know if they've had any, week all-conference players. Okay, so do your research. Okay, from the athletic side of things, from the soccer side of things, but also do it on the academic side. Okay, see what majors they have to offer. If you're interested in athletic training, do they have that as a major? I know Augustana does. So that would be, you want to do that research. Okay, so that's going to be a big thing. You know that information. Okay. When you're on the call with the coach, okay, you want to make sure that, you don't have any distractions going on. You're not, playing a video game, or you're not, talking with your friend over here. You want to make sure that, you are not doing anything else, okay? So your presentation, your tone, your confidence, your enthusiasm, those are all important keys to a phone call. Coaches want to talk to student athletes that are engaged. That's going to be a memorable conversation, okay? So they don't want to have, one answer questions. Like if a coach asks you, Drew, how's your high school season going so far? And if you say, Coach, it's good, his coach wants you to elaborate. So, Drew, you're going to need to say, my high school season's, going well so far, Coach. We were off to a tough start, but we were playing some really tough teams in the beginning of the year. But now, we're getting ready to go into sectional play. Stuff like that, okay? So you want to have some information, more than, one yes and no answers, okay? And you guys want to make sure that you're asking good questions over the phone. So, for instance, things that you can find on the website, so, you can see the different players on the team. You know who the coaches are. You know what majors coaches that the school offers. Those are things that, you can all do that research. So you don't want to ask those types of questions. You want to ask, Coach, what are the most popular majors for student athletes, at Augustana? And then Coach can go in depth about that. Or you can even say something like, Coach, I see that, athletic training is a really popular major for Augustana, for some of the players on the men's soccer team. How does that work with the time commitment? I know you have to get a certain amount of hours in for athletic training. How does that work during soccer season? Those are some good questions. how do student athletes balance their schedule, their workload, their soccer, and their social life? I mean, how do you do that all, especially during season? And then coach can refer to, freshmen, they have we have study tables for freshmen, we have tutors for freshmen, things of that nature. Time management is really important. We have, helper, so those are some types of questions that you can ask. Coach, what are you looking for in an ideal soccer recruit? What kind of characteristics and qualities are you looking for? So you can talk more in depth about it. So you see what I mean? You want to ask questions that, you're getting some more depth to it. You're learning more about the coach. You're learning more about the school. You're learning more about the program. So those are the type of good questions to ask. And guys, we've got some direct questions. All of us head recruiting coaches, we have direct questions that you can ask coaches. We have a list for you. So go ahead and ask us. We'll be happy to provide that for you. Okay. So those are just some really important things to talk about. Now the types of the questions that coaches are going to ask you, guys, they're going to ask you about school. If they have not seen you play live, they're going to ask you what your schedule is, whether it's, your high school schedule or your club schedule. And I will say that college coaches are more willing to go to college showcases just because you can see more teams there. So for a college coach, it's more beneficial for them to go to like a bigger college showcase, like a Scott Gallagher, showcase. That would be something where coaches will. High school games, coach may go to check those out, especially if it's local. But, if it's just one name and maybe it's not the most competitive team, coach may not get a lot of interest out of that. So you make sure that you've got your club schedule ready to go, and if you're playing in any tournaments. Coaches may also ask you, Drew, what other colleges are you looking at? And it's perfectly fine to say, Coach, I'm looking at a few other schools in the CCIW, or I'm looking at a few schools in Iowa, and tell the coach what schools you're looking at. Coach, I'm looking at Concordia, I'm looking at North Central, North Park, and just let that coach know what other schools you're looking at. Okay, so that's another question that coaches will ask. So that's really like the meat of the phone call. And again, guys, you do want to practice this. You want to practice, introducing yourself and just answering these types of questions. Okay. Again, guys, if you're sending an email to the coach, they don't respond, send that email, coach, what's a good time to set up a phone call, what works best with your schedule. That next email would be, Coach, I'm going to call you at such and such a time. Then you call and you leave a message. If you don't hear back from coach, then I would most likely move on from that school unless, you're a 2018, 2019 grad. Again, you've got to keep calling that coach if you don't hear from them because they can't return your call. Okay. So let's talk about the visits, okay? I do have a lot of questions on, Emily, what is an official visit versus an unofficial visit, okay? So here's some information in regards to the visits. Okay, so you can take an official visit after the first day of classes of your senior year at the Division I level, okay? At the Division II level, you can take an official visit on or after June 15th for your senior year. And you can have a tryout at a Division II school, which is great. Division III, you can take an official visit January 1st of your junior year. NAIA, you can also go on your junior year, and you can have a tryout for that team as well. Okay. You can make unofficial visits to campuses at any time. So the biggest difference, guys, between the official visits and unofficial is that official visits, coaches can pay for some or all of your trip. Unofficial visits are on your own dime, so you pay for everything on the unofficial visits, okay? However, with soccer, even on an official visit, do expect some costs of travel, and most likely it will be the travel costs. So, driving to the school, flying to the school, however you get there. And guys, another thing, you want to coordinate that visit with the coaching staff and not the admissions department, okay? Admissions doesn't know what the soccer coach's schedule is. So, I had some student athletes do that when I was coaching, and we were going to an away game, we were leaving leaving at 11 a.m. and that kid was coming in at noon, so I didn't have a chance to meet with her. Um, schedule with the coach. Okay. So initiating those visits, okay, with coaches. Again, like we talked about, the general flow of soccer recruiting, you're going to start off with those emails. Then it's going to be the phone conversations and then the campus visits. That's typically how soccer recruiting works. So guys, if you have an opportunity to talk to a coach on the phone, that means that there's some interest in you, okay? Coach does have an interest in you. So when you're on the phone, ask the coach to go on a campus visit. Coach, it was great, learning about Augustana. I'd really like to come on a visit. Can we set that up? Okay? And coaches may invite you also on the phone to go on a visit, but feel free to ask a coach to go. And you should do this as, freshmen, sophomores, juniors and seniors. It's never too early to visit campuses, okay? You get a good idea, you get a good, feel of the campus when you take those visits. And a campus visit is also very important to getting offered a roster spot, okay? So, coaches, oftentimes when you're on that campus visit, they will offer you a roster spot. And think about this too, guys. If you're on a campus visit with a coaching staff, this means that there's a big interest in you as a player. So you've got to think of it as an interview. So you want to make sure you conduct yourself in a positive manner. There's another great webinar on campus visits, but also, you guys can get in touch with us too, and we can talk you through, a campus visit and talk with you in more depth about a visit when you're getting ready to go. Need a game plan, okay, go ahead and schedule that coaching session with your head recruiting coach, and that's under the Recruiting 101 tab on your profile, okay? So feedback from one of my student athletes, she made her first phone, and we talked about it on Twitter, so she was pretty excited about that. So she went ahead, she made that phone call. We had a coaching session, we practiced the phone call, and she went ahead and did that. So that was cool. So just some things to think about from class tonight. You want to make sure you know the NCAA rules and NAIA rules, when you can get in contact with a coach. You do want to have a purpose, for your phone call, okay? You want to do that research of schools so you know all the information before you get on that phone call. Be proactive in the process, guys. College coaches do want to hear from you, especially as underclassmen. Coaches do want to hear from you guys on the phone, okay? Definitely reach out to us, guys, if you have any questions. Call us at that 877 number, recruiting help. That's a general email, but know who your head recruiting coach is, okay? These are some of our Twitter accounts, and go ahead and contact us, guys. We want to help you through the process and give you information and make sure that you're excited and confident to go through this process. So I want to open it up for the next 5 minutes here, and if you all have any questions, go ahead and type them into the chat box. If you need any, we can go over any of the slides if you had questions about that, or anything that you have questions on tonight. So you guys feel free. I'm going to just grab a quick sip of water here, but go ahead and ask any questions that you have. Cool too. You can log out, at time. Again, I appreciate you spending a little bit of time with me. Oh, so Drew, is there anything you should not ask during a visit? Drew, I wouldn't really say there's anything, off limits to ask a coach. Some things that, are a little bit, are like the scholarships and the money aspect. Those are things that coaches are probably going to talk with you about. That's not the first question that you should ask a coach. Like, coach, am I getting a full ride? Something like that is not the type of things that you should ask. But when you're on the visit, you can talk with coach. If you're looking at a Division II school or a Division I or an NAIA school that can offer, athletic money, you guys can certainly have conversations about that. Like, Coach, how many players are you looking to bring in for this class? Do you have any commitments at this point? And then you can learn more about the scholarship opportunities. I wouldn't say there's anything like that you shouldn't talk about. Have a list of questions too to ask coaches. And then the great thing is you can compare and contrast going on different campus visits. Drew, are there any questions a coach should not ask me? I don't think so, Drew. I mean, I can't really think anything that comes to mind. Typically, when I was coaching, red flag questions, yeah. I will ask you, like I said, what other colleges you're looking at, and that's okay. Coach said to you, Drew, I'm going to offer you, you're going to start when you come onto this team, you're going to be the best player that ever played here. Those would be questions that I would say would be red flag questions because, you as a coach, I know coaches don't typically promise, playing time or that kind of thing because you've got to put that work into it. You've got to make sure that you're fit during the summer because as a coach, you'd hate to say, Drew would be, this kind of player for us. I can see you starting every game, and then Drew, if you decide to just like sit on the couch and eat potato chips all summer, come in unfit, then that's, the thing that I would, would look at. Yeah, but really, I mean, that would be the main question that I would kind of pose a flag at. Yeah, both questions for both of you guys. So yeah, when a sports season ends, is that when the coaches most actively recruits players? Yes, Grant. During the season, it's a bit tougher. Coaches still will do recruiting. Usually one night or two evenings, coaches will make phone calls to players because recruiting really is a year-round commitment for college coaches. But typically, during the season, you may have, a delay in response time, and there's not as much going on. But yes, when the season's done, that's when coaches are going to be more active for recruiting. But I would say it's still good. This is always a great time, like I mentioned before, to email a coach, or if you've got Twitter, you can send a direct message to coach, hey, coach, great win, good luck, anything like that is cool. Anytime I got a message like that from a student athlete, I was like, wow, they're following, they're keeping up with how the team is doing. So that is a good way to keep in contact with the coach during the season. Question. I think, Samantha, I think it's always good to go on a visit during season because then you have an opportunity to watch the team play. You also may have an opportunity to watch a training session, a practice with the team. So I do think the fall season is a good time to visit. I also think spring is a good time too. Usually the coach will have, more time during the day to really, talk with you and, spend more time with you during the spring. Summer, the only thing with summers is that students aren't on campus, so you don't get that same energy during the summertime. So, but if that's the only time you can visit, then you can certainly go. But I do think it's always a good time to go when students are on campus. Winter is good too, especially if you're looking at a school that's cold, you want to check it out. If you go to school like when I was coaching at St. Lawrence in upstate New York, it was, pretty close to Canada. And man, it was cold up there. We got a lot of snow, and we had people come in the winter, and one of the dads I talked to said, you know what, we wanted to bring Corinne up here on this visit so she could see like what it's like the toughest time of the year, and if she still liked campus, that was a good sign. So the going to be the most beautiful. Campuses are always looking really great in the fall. I would say, go to campuses during different seasons too. When I went on my visits, I actually went like in that February time. You guys have been great tonight. So, yeah, absolutely. And guys, I'll send you a recording. The recordings last for a week, so if you have any questions. And like I said, guys, reach out to your head recruiting coach. You can always follow up with me, too. I'm happy to answer any follow-up questions for you. So, Samantha, I want you to start calling coaches, okay? You being a sophomore right now. Drew and Grant, I didn't ask what year you guys were. When's your year? 2017. So, Grant, when you start making calls to coaches, they can call you back, which is great. And they can also email you back, too. All right, to log off here, and I'll send you the recording. And like I said, if you guys have any follow-up questions, let me know and practice, okay?